Hello and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, today we are doing the next installation or the next part of my world building thing, and today I am making a really cool lounge, and it's kind of a very unique looking lounge. It's like you've seen in the screenshots and you will see in the video, I guess, but it's just kind of cool. It's like literally like a cube with a bunch of glass, and it has kind of an interesting floor plan involving like the basement and stuff. So I hope you like it. I thought it was really fun and really different. It changes like a lot as I did it, just because like the constraints of the game and just kind of how I was feeling as I did it. So you'll see it change a lot. Like as you can see now, I have those kind of diagonal walls that are going on. That doesn't even stay. I didn't end up liking that. I also just wanted to say before it goes on that there are a couple things that I didn't include in the actual footage just because it was annoying. One thing you'll see is that in the video I did like a lattice outside. I thought it looked really cool, but if you've ever done lattices in the game, you know it takes like 7 million years to do, because you first have to draw out all the lattices with the fences, and then once you have done that, then you need to go ahead and delete all the floor tiles that have created themselves. So it took like forever, so I just didn't include it because I was like, this is a waste of time. It's not that interesting to watch. And then the other thing that I didn't include was the footage of me fixing it all because it got messed up. I like broke the game or something because I originally did it like off the ground, like with a high foundation, and then I ended up reducing it, and I added like a fountain and stairs, and it got all confused, and it kind of almost created like a floor level between the first floor and the basement. So it like made up its own little floor that wasn't there, and it was all confused. And so when I tried to place the stairs, it like wasn't working, so I basically had to like kind of redo a lot of stuff, and so I didn't include that because it's just kind of a waste of time as well. So if you're kind of wondering like what that is or how things just like appear randomly, that's why. Yeah, everything's in the screenshots, but there's just a couple things that I didn't include in the footage because it was just too much. And then just a little disclaimer, if I seem like out of breath while I'm talking or like really tired or something, it's really hot right now. There's like a heat wave or something going on, and so it's just like absolutely miserable right now, which is weird because we're almost about to get into fall. And when I say it's miserable, it's not that hot. Like where I live, it's a pretty nice climate. It's only like maybe upper 90s for a few days. There are definitely places in the world that get much hotter than here, but the thing about where I live is that because it doesn't get that hot or it doesn't get that cold, there's not really any air conditioning, because if you had air conditioning, it would be a waste of money to keep it running and stuff, because it really doesn't get that hot. But then when there's a heat wave, it's like terrible. So yeah, if I sound just out of breath or something, it's just because it's hot and I'm really sweaty and it's disgusting outside. And then also, one thing I wanted to share was that in my last video, which I will link below in case you want to view it because my rant was pretty great, I was ranting about this awful jerk in one of my classes, and I was just kind of complaining and saying like people should be nice to each other. Basically, go watch it if you want, it's interesting, and I complained a lot about people, but I was saying like everybody should just be nicer to each other. And I was thinking that I think, at least for like as a personal video journaling thing maybe, that I will try to share one nice thing that I did for a stranger each like video since the last video, if that makes sense. So like once a week, just share something that I did that I didn't have to do that was kind, I guess. So, and I think if you want to participate as well, that would be a great way to just try and add a little more positivity into the world and a little more kindness. So the nice thing that I did was yesterday I was really hungry when I was at school on campus, and there's this one, so there's a couple different like cafes on my campus, but there's one that's like the really popular one, like it's like the big one in the center campus, you know, and so it gets really busy during like lunchtime and breakfast time and whatnot. And I walked in and there was like a huge line, and I think honestly people were just going in because they had that cafe has air conditioning and it was really hot. But so I walked in, and there was like this huge group of people that walked in kind of like at the same time as me. And you know, like sometimes it's an awkward thing where like you get there at the same time, so who gets in line first or like whatever. So I just kind of like let everyone go in front of me, even though there was like already a huge line. So I waited an extra like 15 or 20 minutes in line to let these people go in front. So it's not like the nicest thing ever. It didn't like solve world peace or something, but it was something nice that like I definitely got there either slightly before them or at the same time or whatever, and I just like to let them go in front because it was nice. So if you did anything nice or kind, I encourage you to share it because everybody can use a little bit more positivity. So now I actually have another rant, but this one's not actually quite as ranty or quite as lengthy. It's not as bad, and this one's not about an annoying student of like fellow student of mine. This one's actually about a really awful professor, and she's honestly probably the worst and most annoying professor that I've had while at university. So this lady, she's really annoying. So on when I signed up for the class, there's this thing called Rate My Professor that a lot of people use. You know, if you're not familiar, it's basically just where you can say what school you go to and what professor you think about taking, and people kind of leave reviews for the professor, and it kind of just helps you decide, you know, what to do. And she kind of had whatever reviews. They weren't really that great. They weren't really that bad, you know. But my roommate over the summer, I mentioned what class I was taking and who was teaching it, and she said that she had taken this professor a few years ago, and that she was just kind of crazy, I guess would be the best way to describe kind of how she's describing her. Yeah, and so I was like, it's too late to really switch. You can't, my major is kind of impacted, so you can't really switch after you've decided what class you're taking. So I was like, I guess I'm just gonna have to, you know, do my best. So on the first day of class, which is, you know, usually syllabus day, that's the typical thing that you do on the first day of class, we're going through it, and first of all, the bookstore at my university, just like most universities, will often sell the books, you know, if the professors give enough time ahead of time saying like, this is what book I want for my class. So I go buy my books. All my books are there except for this lady's class. And when I went to ask the cashier, like, can I buy this, you know, they said that they were out of stock because the professor didn't tell them in time what books she wanted. So I was like, okay, great. So then what I had to do was, because she assigned reading, you know, like the first day, and so I had to go buy them on Amazon for like twice as much as I could have bought them for used like at the bookstore, because at the bookstore you can get them immediately, you know, but when you do Amazon, I couldn't get it used because I needed them too quickly. So I spent like twice as much on these stupid books as I should have, because she didn't turn in her book list in time. So that was not a great introduction. And she made us spend like, we have like 6 books. Like, it's ridiculous. And it's silly. We don't need this many books. The exams and the stuff doesn't even require all the books. Like, everything in the class is based off of her lecture. So she made us buy all these books, and then we're like not even really doing anything. It's really stupid. Anyway, so then on the first day, you know, she goes through the syllabus, and then she asks, like, does anyone have any questions? And someone asked if we need to bring the books to class every day. And this is like uncommon for classes, at least at my school, is that you usually don't have to bring a book to class, just because usually the discussions will be not about the books, or you don't need to like cite them directly. But someone was just asking, you know, and she's one of those professors that like totally cares what her students do and think. Like, there's some professors that say like, you know, come to class, don't come to class, I don't care, it's your thing, like, if you don't come to class, you're just gonna fail, you know? And they genuinely believe that. Like, I have another professor, literally couldn't care. He, like, made a joke that after he stopped taking attendance, the first week for, like, the university purposes, that half of the attendance dropped. And it was true, because he wasn't gonna drop anyone who didn't show up, so they didn't show up, you know? And, like, he didn't care, he was making a joke about it. But this lady so cares. Like, she takes it so personally, what her students do or think or whatever. And I mean, I get it, like, it's her job, you know, but it's like a little a little silly, in my opinion, just how much she's like cares but then says she doesn't care. So anyway, so the student asked, do we need to bring our books to class? Like, are we going to be going over the books in class? And she doesn't answer the question. Instead, she says, well, it's your education. You can do whatever you want. And it's like, everybody was kind of upset because it's like, well, you didn't answer the question. Like, are we going to be using the books in class or not? It's not about being lazy. It's not about, you know, taking your education into your hands or whatever. They're just asking, do I need to bring 30 pounds of books to class every day? Like, so not a great introduction to this lady. She's like very irritating. But anyway, she also does this thing called eye clickers. And if you are a person who's been out of school for a while, or a person who hasn't gone to university, you probably don't know what these are. They're kind of a new thing. It's sort of to like replace in-class quizzes, I guess. So they're like these little remote looking things. They're, you know, about the size of the palm of your hand, and they say like A, B, C, D, E, and like with buttons, you know. And the point is that you register this clicker for the class, so they each have like IDs, you know, to your name. You register it with the class, and then the professor can ask like multiple choice questions in class and get like an instant poll, sort of. And I'm not a fan of these, just because, number one, they're pretty expensive. They're like $25 at least. And they're just kind of silly. Like, I don't know. I'm not a fan, but I've used it in other classes. It hasn't been a problem. But this lady, she made us buy the eye clickers, okay, so at least $25, you know, and then she can't figure out how to use them, so, like, we just don't use them in class. But then it's too late to return the clickers, because the bookstore won't let you return anything past, I think it's like the first 2 weeks of a class. So now everyone in the class just spent $25 on these stupid clickers that don't even work, that we don't even use, but she continues to try to use them at the beginning of each class. So it's just like, it's just such a waste. It's so stupid. And it's just, I don't know, it's really silly. And then, so at my school, all the classes start at 10 minutes past the prescribed hour. It's kind of weird. I don't know why this evolved, but to give students time to walk to class, instead of just creating a 10-minute time block in like the prescribed hours of the class, it's just completely understood that every class starts 10 minutes late, which, I don't know, it's just kind of weird. It's a thing. And so classes never, like if a class says it starts at 12, it starts at 12:10. And this lady always gets there at 12:10, okay? She never gets there early, nothing like that. And then she takes 10 minutes to set up her stupid PowerPoint and try to set up the stupid eye clicker. And like, this wouldn't be a problem, except it's literally every single day. And again, wouldn't be a problem, except then she tries to keep us 10 minutes after lecture, which is that's not a normal thing. Like, nobody keeps the students 10 minutes after a lecture because you have other classes to go to, or you have work or whatever. And so, like, she can't plan ahead and just get there on time or get there early so she can set up, and then she tries to keep us after in lecture. And like, the funny thing is like most universities won't have a bell system the way you do in, like, you know, high school or middle school or whatever, but ours has like this giant clock tower, and so when it's the hour, you know it's the hour. And the classroom I'm in is like right next to this clock tower, and so every time it's the hour and the class is over, you know, like, you can hear the bell. And it's an hour class, which means it's a 50-minute class because they start 10 minutes after the hour. And so every single class is like almost cut in half with time because of how much time she spends trying to set up this stupid eye clicker and the stupid PowerPoint. And so it's just like really frustrating because then it's just like a huge waste of time. Like, she wastes half the class time just trying to get this stupid eye clicker thing to work. And it's just really silly. Anyway, I just had to rant because this lady's crazy and she's like really high maintenance and weird, and I'm like really over the class. And like, I try to like be grateful for my education and whatnot because I'm like going to a really good school and all that, but sometimes this lady makes it a little bit difficult. Anyway, we are rapidly approaching the end, so I'm gonna, cut off my rant. If you have any questions or comments or whatever about the build or the video or whatever, please let me know, and I will see you next time.